So the quarterfinals of the 2018 FIFA World Cup are halfway over. We had both matches on the left side of the bracket today between Uruguay and France and Brazil versus Belgium. And on the right side tomorrow we have Russia versus Croatia and Sweden versus England. See my flags here. Keep them in very good condition. And just to go over, well, my predictions have been officially, my bracket at least, has been officially obliterated thanks to the two results from earlier today. Because before the tournament started, I had Uruguay and Brazil both in the quarterfinals, both winning their groups, both in these positions, and I had them winning their quarterfinals, meeting each other in the semifinals. And as you know, I had the winner of Uruguay-Brazil going on to win the World Cup. But today, France defeated Uruguay 2-0, and Belgium defeated Brazil 2-1. I'm not here to talk about those games. I think there's different reasons why both teams won and why the other two teams lost. But for now, France went through, Belgium went through, and we're going to get a semifinal of France versus Belgium. A long rivalry in football. One of them is going to win bragging rights next week. And one of them is going to the final. So the other side of the bracket, it's a little bit trickier. I mean, as we get closer to the final, you're going to see things start getting tighter. Things are going to start becoming more difficult to predict. I'm glad that I got 7 out of the 8 round of 16 matches correct. The only one that was wrong was France versus They Who Must Not Be Named, and I gave They Who Must Not Be Named a glimmer of hope, and they spat in my face. So, this side of the bracket, it's an open ball game, isn't it? Because one of these 4 teams is very much unexpectedly going to be a World Cup finalist. And only one of these countries here has won the World Cup before, back in 1966, and there's only one title from these 4 teams. Really quite an incredible World Cup, a really open tournament. And if you look at the teams that are left, only 2 countries that have won the World Cup. One is England, the other one is France. So we are either going to have a one-time winner expand their lead and get a second star on the jersey, or we are going to get a winner for the first time in Belgium, Russia, Sweden, or Croatia. That's beautiful. So, predictions for tomorrow's games: Russia versus Croatia and Sweden versus England. It's hard. It's really hard. So for the first match, Russia versus Croatia, as we both know, the two teams came off of a penalty shootout victory in the round of 16. Russia over much more favored Spain, Croatia over Denmark. Both teams just squeaking by from spot kicks. And there will be a question of whether or not fatigue will be a factor, since both teams played 120 minutes, but I very much kind of doubt so, because in today's world, with advancements in fatigue recovery and the fact that soccer players today in the modern world are much more fit than they used to be, I don't think it's going to be much of a problem. And because of the fact that both teams went to extra time and penalties, it kind of cancels each other out. So I don't have any reason to suspect that Russia or Croatia, one of them will be, fresher than the other. In this quarterfinal, Croatia should probably win. But the reason Russia are in the conversation is for 3 reasons. One, they're the host nation, and statistically speaking, you never knock the host nation because most times they make a decent run in major tournaments. And in the last, I believe, 5 World Cups, the host nation has gotten to at least the semifinals. Say for South Africa, who did not advance in 2010. 98 France champions, 2002 South Korea 4th place, 2006 Germany 3rd place, 2014 Brazil 4th place as well. The other reason is because the confidence, the high passion that Russia and the home nation will have gotten from overcoming the obstacle that is Spain, one of the favorites to win this tournament, really the favorite on this right side of the bracket. So when Spain was eliminated on penalties a few days ago, you could tell that this special World Cup had already gotten more special. Things had really opened up. The right side of the bracket was obliterated, just blown wide open. The door is wide open. And the other is because Russia are a really decent side. They came into this tournament low expectations, but they performed much better than we thought they would. Now, whether you believe it's through doping or something else, that's a political matter. I'm not going to get into that here. But historically speaking, this should not be considered a surprise. Because they're on the more lenient side of the bracket, Russia have a decent pathway to a really deep run, just like their predecessors do. And I don't think there's very, very much separating Russia as a collective unit and Croatia. Now, Croatia have by far and away the better individual talents. Modric, Rakitic, Mandzukic, Rebic, Subasic. So that's why I say Croatia should come through. What should happen? Croatia should win this match at like 2-0 or 2-1. Right? You would think maybe you give Russia a goal because of the home factor element. They're going to be a hard team to break down, very organized as they were in their match against Spain. The thing with Croatia is, though, even though they topped their group with 9 points and they had 3 wins, they almost blew it. They almost blew it against Denmark. In the penalty shootout, where 2 of them missed penalties, 3 if you count Modric's missed attempt in extra time. I believe Kasper Schmeichel for Denmark made 3 penalty saves in that game, and same as Subasic, but still, Denmark pushed Croatia to the brink, and I'm not sure that a team that wants to go all the way. We know Russia's not going to go all the way. I mean, this World Cup has been crazy, so who knows? But you would think Russia will not go, doesn't have what it takes to go all the way. Croatia very much so has what it takes to go all the way, in no short part due to the fact that they're on this side of the bracket, but also because they are traditional dark horses in major tournaments. The thing with Croatia that is concerning is I don't know whether it was a good or a bad thing for them to have been pushed to the limit as early as the round of 16, because, as we saw with Belgium, can either make or break a team when they stare into the abyss. With the case with Argentina, it was their undoing. They defeated Nigeria, and it bought them just a few more days of delaying the inevitable, right? With Belgium, when they were staring into the darkness against Japan, coming back the way they did, and then defeating Brazil today, and now being one of the favorites to go all the way. So for Croatia, I think that they came up against a Danish team that, yes, was very efficient and good at cutting off their supply line and killing off their momentum for large stretches of that game. But the thing is this Russian team is very well set up, and I think they're going to cause Croatia a lot of problems. And if Croatia is pushed to the brink by Denmark, you simply have to take into account that the host nation factor is going to come into play here for Russia. It just will. If we don't say that it's not, who are we kidding? Right? That's why I'm doubtful that Croatia will comfortably win this match. I mean, if Croatia wins this match like 3-0, 4-0, then hats off to them. They'll be on a roll. They'll be just hitting their peak, and maybe they'll go on to reach the final and maybe even win this tournament. But that usually doesn't happen with host nations, unless you consider the Germany-Brazil thing, which I personally thought was a freak result. So I think it's going to be close. Russia-Croatia will be close. And I'm interested to see from Russia's standpoint how Denis Cheryshev sets up in this game. If he can add to his tally, maybe he can make a case for Golden Boot winner. Who the hell knows? Also for Ignashevich, Dmitry Smolov. Oh no, is it Fyodor Smolov? I know Smolov because I remember him from the Confederations Cup. He's had a little bit of a quiet tournament. He hasn't scored any goals for Russia yet. He converted one of their penalties, but I'm really hoping that Smolov can get on the score sheet for Russia because I really liked what I saw from him last year, and he has yet to score for his country in this tournament. And then for Croatia, we already know what they're going to do. For their sake, if Croatia wants to go all the way, I think they need to kill this game off early. They have to win within 90 minutes because if they go into the semifinals after playing 120 minutes, possibly 120 minutes plus penalties for a second time, I just think they're going to be gassed. And historical records and statistics shows that a team that gets pushed outside of 90 minutes for more than one game in a row, it usually doesn't bode well for them later down the line. And I just think that Croatia cannot afford to have that. They can't afford to penalty shootout their way to the final. They can't afford to 120 minutes their way to the final. It's going to be a tense, tight match, and I think the home crowd is definitely going to be a huge asset for Russia here. But I think Croatia will edge it. I think it'll be 2-1. I'm going with Croatia to win this 2-1. I think that I'll say Smolov finally scores for Russia, and the two Croatian goals, one will come from Modric, the other will come from Rebic, who should have scored against Denmark when he had that one-on-one position with Kasper Schmeichel, but he waited way too long, almost cost him in the end. I think he will finally score. And that's another thing about Croatia that concerns me. They can't have this sense of hesitancy when their chances come to them. They need to sink them. Because this is a golden opportunity for everybody on this side of the bracket to win the damn tournament. To have a winner for the first time, say for England. But England won 50 plus years ago, so it would be like winning for the first time all over again for this generation of England players. I'm going with Croatia. I mean, I would not be surprised if Russia goes through. I was leaning towards Russia to win this game for most of the day, but I'm going with Croatia. I just think that they have a little too much quality, but yeah, I'm going with Croatia. 2-1. Sweden and England. You know what's interesting about Sweden and England? History together in the World Cup 2002 and 2006. They're both in the same group stage. In 2002, Sweden topped the group. 2006, England topped the group. And Sweden has proved something of a boogie team for England for several decades. However, I personally don't think they are Sweden's boogie team anymore because England defeated them in the 2012 European Championship, and when you finally get over that hurdle of playing a team in a major international tournament and you beat them, even if just once, they're no longer your boogie team. For me, a boogie team is a team that you just can never find yourselves beating in a tournament. Friendlies don't count. But historically speaking, Sweden and England produce some really interesting World Cup matches, and there is that whole that rivalry element there to it. The way this Swedish team is set up tactically, they're not a very good team. Not very many names, really pop out to you. But, Emil Forsberg, Marcus Berg, they've done enough to get Sweden here, as well as Jan Andersson's really pragmatic defensive setup. It's a Swedish team that doesn't really create very many opportunities, but they got here because of their smart tactical discipline. And I think that Sweden's defensive setup is a very bad match for England. It's going to be very difficult for England to contend with because England is not a team that has a lot of creativity going forward. I just don't think England have a lot of creativity up front. Having said that, Sweden has a little bit of a gamble, of an approach in this tournament. Because of the fact that they are a pragmatic side, if they concede early, their game plan goes out the window. Because then they're going to be forced to open up against England. And they're going to have the top goal scorer of the tournament so far breathing down their necks. And Sweden cannot afford to do that, just as I said Croatia could not afford to do the thing that I said they couldn't afford to do. But for Sweden, because they are a team that sticks to such an ardent, narrow-framed strategy, I just think that it's eventually stands a good chance of being their undoing. Because if England scores inside the first 20 minutes of this match, I think Sweden are incredible peril. Incredible peril. So for Sweden, I think the best that they would want to do, they would want to drag this game on for as long as possible to sort of hold England at bay, stifle them like they have been stifling teams really suffocatingly for most of this tournament. And just take their chances when they come to them, probably on the counter, especially on set pieces and aerial positions. That is another advantage I think Sweden has over England, is that England will not really be able to rely on headed crosses into the box, I think, to Harry Kane and company to score their goals, because Sweden, the very tall blokes, they do a good job of clearing those out of the way. If you're going to go up against Sweden in an aerial battle, I think 9 times out of 10 you're going to lose. And that's something that Sweden themselves more so would use to their advantage. We could see something when an Emil Forsberg, Marcus Berg goal off of a corner or a headed cross or an indirect free kick, The problem with Sweden is in their match against Switzerland, they kind of struggle to put away some of the chances that they had. And I don't think England are going to give them very many chances in this game. Vice versa, I don't think Sweden are going to give England very many chances in this game. So I'm not sure whether or not this is going to be an open, exciting affair, or it's going to be painfully boring, possibly the most boring match of the quarterfinals. If it goes to extra time, who does it benefit? I would say it benefits Sweden because this will be the first time they've gone to extra time, whereas England have not. And even though I said for both Russia and Croatia, the fatigue thing will not play a role, it's not so much a fatigue thing will play a role that would adversely affect England so much as it is a psychological one. Because for a team to get pushed to extra time in a second consecutive tournament knockout game, it takes a toll mentally on a team, right? It takes a profound level of know without to get through that again for a second time. And if it goes to penalties, I think I favor Sweden almost 100% because of the statistic saying that it's very rare for teams that win a knockout game on penalties to then win their next knockout game if it also goes to penalties. I believe that's only happened twice in the last 20 years of the World Cup. And both of them were from host nations, go figure. So if it goes to extra time, I favor Sweden. It goes to penalties, I really favor Sweden. But my scoreline prediction for this game, I think England will do it. England will do it 1-0. I think. I don't think they will. Let's see. I don't know what half they will score in, but I think England will win 1-0. Second half. England will win this match 1-0 in the second half. And I'm going to throw a different goal scorer. I'm not going to pick Harry Kane. I'm going to go with Danny Rose. He got on the end of a decent chance in extra time against Colombia. I think if Gareth Southgate starts him, I think he'll make some decent runs in and on the box. I think Danny Rose will score the game's only goal, and England will win 1-0. That's what I think is going to happen. Yeah. Because Sweden, it's a great story how they got here. But I just think their strategy is a really risky one. I'm not sure Sweden would have a plan B if they were to concede first. They haven't conceded first. They haven't trailed a game at all in this tournament, save for Toni Kroos's free kick winner in the 95th minute of the second group game in Group F. But that doesn't really count as a lead because the referee blew the whistle almost as soon as Kroos scored the goal. So Sweden haven't really been trailing in this tournament. So yeah, I just think that they're not going to have a backup plan. And I think if that's the case, they might just be sorted out. So, my predictions are based on what I think will happen. They're not based on what I want to happen. I'm a neutral, but if I had to pick who I would like to go through, I think I'd like Sweden. Because I'd like Sweden to go through because I think their story, how they got here, knocking out the Netherlands, knocking out Italy, just very much so flying under the radar with a strong collective effort in the post-Zlatan Ibrahimovic era. I think it's really noble. It's really admirable. But, I mean, it's nothing against England either. But anyway, that's besides the point. England is going to win this match. England will win 1-0, I think is going to be. So, I think we're going to get a semifinal of Croatia versus England. Yep, that's my prediction.